you grew up in Pennsylvania, so obviously that's a renowned, kind of dirt track area. Was it just the right area to be in? Was racing, a family thing, or what kind of got you hooked?
It wasn't really racing that got me into it. My dad had a sign business, so he used to letter a lot of race cars, and you just knew a lot of racing people from that. And then, you just get to be friends with people. And, Barry Jackson lived down the road from me when we were kids. And you start working for Larry Jackson, and he was kind of the crew chief, or we kind of came up working on that thing together when we were young. And then you just kind of get a taste for it. And a sprint car deal, I still had a sign business back then, and I wanted to still go racing. So Randy Wolf, got me started as far as helping him and kind of teaching me, when you're in a mentorship back then, you don't really know what's going on. So it was good to be with him, like people like Barry Jackson and Joey Kuhn and, people like that back home that we raced with. So that kind of got us started. And then, once you get your feet, I worked for Kevin Gobrecht for a while, and you're still growing up, and you're all buddies working together. Now it's fun. Yeah. So it's, and then you kind of learn more about it, and you kind of get confident in what you're doing, and then you want to try going on the road. So it probably the first, it all runs together, but probably the first one I'm known for being on the road would be Tyler Walker, as far as a crew chief position that you're getting paid for, and you got kids and you're married, so it's for real. So and then it just snowballs from there. It went from Andy Hillenberg to Jock Hodenshield to there's been a bunch of, Jeff Shepard was in there somewhere. It just all kind of runs together, and then eventually you work up to, you get to probably be with one of the best drivers in our generation would be Donny Schatz, and spend over 20 years at TSR. So between his family team and TSR, that's probably been the bulk of my career. That was kind of a special time.
Yeah. So you talked about kind of like the mentorship and the influences that you had when you were younger, and so often you typically hear from the drivers, right, in racing, and so few about the crew chief stories. And so when you got started in racing, what made you say, hey, look, maybe I want to be a crew chief and not a driver?
That's a good question. Just money. Your family don't. I raced micros when I was younger. We didn't have enough money to keep going in it, so the mechanical side of it I was into, and then I got to be friends with like Karl Kinser and stuff, and be around him and how he was back then. Mm-hmm. That's like God. Yeah. So and he kind of befriended me and taught me a bunch of stuff. Guys like Kenny Woodruff, Daryl Socher, Scott Gherkin. So you learned off the top level guys back then, and you had a lot of respect for them. So anytime they would give you any kind of time and let out little bits of knowledge and stuff like that, you just soak it up like a sponge.
So when was it that you went from being a crew member to a crew chief?
Probably somewhere in the 90s. It'd been before that you're either helping out and I think it was after Kevin's deal I went on the road. It might have been with Brian Paulus for just a little bit, and then I got, you get out to California and you meet people you'd never met before, and that's when I got with Tyler, and that's what kind of started all of it.
So would you say Tyler or Randy Wolf, like who kind of looking back, like was the primary, I guess, reason or mentor that you would say you're here today?
Well, that probably Karl Kinser. I mean, when I got established as being a crew chief, and you're around him and guys like Daryl Socher and Kenny Woodruff and Scott Gherkin, 3 of them guys aren't with us anymore. So, there's been other guys along the way, but that, Karl's probably had the biggest impact on my career as anybody.
What kind of style would you say you have as a crew chief? We heard a few things about you, that you're very, very technical, very, very smart. So how did you develop that? Is it just natural?
I think anything's repetition, like you do it enough, but the devil's in the details of all this. So if you can keep it simple, but it's detailed, everything is just right. You know, if you're off a couple numbers on a shock, that don't jive with me. Like, you know, or the motor just isn't right. You know, everything has to be right. So, it's not a, you know, the trick of the week, or hence my nickname, but it's like
Turkey Ricky.
but you know, it just has the fundamentals is still the fundamentals of what we do. You know, you still have to run stagger, your motor's got to run, your driver has to hit his marks and do everything right. You have to have, you know, a good setup, you know, a good balance so they can drive. And what I've learned over the years from working with different guys and working with, you know, guys like Don, it isn't really what I want to do. It's how you can get the car best for what they want to do as far as their style of driving. You know, Rico's way different than Don, so it's a little learning experience there. You know, but every guy's different, and no guy's been the same. It ain't like, you know, I ran this with so and so, it's going to work for us. Usually doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, and guys kind of don't give. The better feedback a driver can give you, the better you can do your job. So that's probably where it all is in the details. You got to listen, and you know, the old guys back in Woodruff's day and Karl's day, they did it their way, and you just shut up and drive it. So it's you know, to be good at it, you got to be damn near right on the spot to be fast.
Yeah.